Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of the Jiu Jitsu Junction podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about some of the reasons why people decide not to start Jiu Jitsu right away. And we're going to be talking about, how much validity there is in some of these reasons that people are giving and kind of debunk the ones that are able to be debunked. So the first and most obvious one is that we're going to discuss here is the being fat or being out of shape one. That it's a pretty we're in the United States here, and it's a pretty common problem. But I think it might be because people aren't doing things like jujitsu.
Yeah, I thought that was a reason to start jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Better than going to a gym in a place where everybody's, there's nothing but cardio machines. You don't have an idea. You have a guided instructor. A lot of times you're wearing a gi, so you're sweating. Man, I think it's better if you. That might be a reason to start jiu-jitsu.
yeah. The to me the biggest reason that you should be leaning towards something like jujitsu for weight loss. And doing jujitsu isn't the whole answer when it comes to being able to lose weight, but it's just so much more engaging. It doesn't feel so much like exercise, except for maybe the 30 seconds at the end of the round. At least for me,
Or the warm-up, right?
the warm up might be worse than the very intense rounds, to be honest.
But you got people around you, so it's if that's maybe an excuse why you don't want to start, maybe that's why you do. Like you're gonna have a community. You're gonna have someone who's the kind of instructor says, hey, help this guy out. Start with this guy. So I mean, you're even gonna have support there from another person, not just you by yourself or having to pay for an extra trainer.
Right, right, yeah. You're paying to learn a skill while also getting all the exercise, right? So the other thing you mentioned was like the support system, right? So you usually like we live in a pretty lonely world nowadays. Everybody's thinking that they've got to go it alone, and whenever they find like a community, it feels very good for them. And I think that jujitsu in most schools has a very good community. So it really helps with kind of like the support network that people are looking for. And a lot of the times when you're doing the weight loss thing, the support network is pretty key.
Oh, it's that's probably one of the coolest. You know, maybe 9 years now, I've been able to be around a gym atmosphere, and that's one of the cool. There's a lot of different avenues that I watch martial arts. I watch jiu-jitsu, kind of help the everyday person. But that's one of the coolest. People come in and that's their goal. They're like, I'm tired of walking on a treadmill, and it's like, well, man, that wasn't the way to lose the weight anyway. But
I mean, it can be, but it's definitely not the most engaging way to do it.
no, no. So it's cool to see, people kind of get motivated. They get excited, and then it's cool to see people that you wouldn't think. They'd be like, "Oh man, you're losing weight. You're really losing weight." They go down in gi sizes, and they come in. They don't see them for a couple weeks, and they come in on an open mat day, and so it's really cool. That's one of the coolest kind of interactions I've seen between just jujitsu and that weight loss. So I think that's more of a reason to be around it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's not all like the losing weight using jujitsu to do it is not all perfect. There are challenges that come with being
Yeah, we forgot about that.
overweight, right? But so when I started, I was probably, I don't know, 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. Yeah, and it was tough. Like we won't
Mobility issues, probably.
mobility issues, all of the things that come with being overweight, right? But in the school that I attended, there was like a decent cohort of us that kind of walked in that way, and we all like unintentionally lost all of the weight together just because we were
That's cool.
exercising and wanted to do it. And wanting to do it is a huge part of actually committing to exercise, right? But yeah, you're gonna walk in. You're gonna walk in, and if you're overweight, the warm ups are gonna be tough. God, I almost threw up so many times. But in order to make a change, you have to let yourself be uncomfortable for a while.
Yep, you got to kind of dive in.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've done jiu-jitsu now for a little while. No better place to dive in. It's such a cool and rewarding thing. So,
Yep.
for sure.
But yeah, so if you're overweight, even like pretty seriously overweight, you'll be able to get a lot of exercise by doing the very basic stuff in jiu-jitsu. You aren't going to be doing like crazy rolling back takes. You're not going to be doing like
Forward rolls, backward rolls.
no, there's no cartwheel passing for you, but all of that stuff isn't that important anyway. And just doing any movement is going to make a pretty big difference when you're carrying more weight than you should. It's kind of like wearing a weighted vest if you're exercising.
Instructors are good about that too. Like they understand. They've had students from all different walks, so they see a body type and they see a little overweight, maybe these things, and they'll come and adjust what they're doing to help you through it. So even they're going to help you there too. So
yeah, you'll get the adjustments
sure.
that you need because they want you to stick around. Both from a business perspective, if you want to be cynical, and also from a being helpful perspective. They want to have like a good member of their community.
For sure.
So so let's move on to the next one, which is like the actual size thing. It's not the same thing as being overweight, but if you're like way bigger or way smaller, sometimes people think that that's a reason not to start. They're like concerned for a variety of different reasons. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a weight class derived, martial art. Like so you're gonna find. I've been to gyms everywhere, and there's people of all different shapes, sizes, ages that kind of that do it. So there's going to be some. And what I've seen really cool is if even just in our gym with our weight class, when I first started, there were only a couple big guys, and you get some guy for some reason, whatever it is, but people attract together. I mean, think about the classes we have right now, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. There's a group of people that are.
We got some big boys.
Yeah, that are XL and above. You can't even say large, like XL and above. I'm small. I'm small out of that group.
Yeah.
A 205 pound person, small.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see a group of, and that just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll happen. It doesn't matter your size. I don't believe so. I think maybe
I think that having at least one person within about 15% of your body weight, just one person, so that you can kind of work with them to pressure test some of your moves. Like it's different, like doing certain moves when somebody's like, I don't know, a 30% difference. Like if someone's like 30, 40 pounds lighter than you, there's going to be some stuff that won't work on bigger guys.
Yeah, but we're talking about that's once you're doing jiu-jitsu for a while, right? But like excuses for not starting.
Yeah,
that's one we can kind of throw that one out the window a little bit
yeah, for sure. You don't need to have somebody that's really close to your weight for the first like 2 years. People that are right. that are smaller than you are still going to trash you. So,
it also teaches you some things, right?
Yeah. So
well, I'm too big. I'll just hold everybody down.
I mean, there's some truth to that, depending on how big they are. There's some like 270-pound guys that can give me some trouble if they're like on special sports supplements and.
Well, you're being really nice, and you said some trouble.
Some trouble.
I still think you would end up on their back, but go ahead.
Well, it kind of depends. Strength matters, but. Yeah, that's why you prioritize being on top with those people.
You better believe it.
Yeah. So here, let me look at this real quick. Yeah. So if you're too big from being out of shape, you could lose the weight. That's some of that will happen naturally, and then after you hit a certain point, you'll need to make a more concerted effort, probably actively do some diet changes, whatever, and yeah, have somebody at some point within your weight to train with, and it doesn't even have to be at your school. Like it can just be, you go to an open mat somewhere in the region once a month or something,
Yep.
and that's enough. Like
That,
really,
that's a common thing in a room is for if somebody's getting ready for we do it at our place where hey we've got X 210 pound guy getting ready for competition, and people come from all around the region to train on our live days. We have 2 live days at the end of the week, Thursday, Friday. People come to train with that big group, so that happens a lot. You in the community, be like, hey coach, I need somebody my size. Oh well, hey, there's a gym across town that has open mat. They got some big guys. Let me get you with them, and that'll happen.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah. That's something that if you've been in combat sports for a while, it was more common for other ones like MMA, um, kickboxing, wrestling, boxing. You pull people in, and jujitsu is starting to do that now
Yep.
because
Yep.
jujitsu has become popular enough
Man.
and there's enough traction to kind of pull people from all
Yeah.
around the area, and people will do that.
Yep. People are competing on the on a big stage, so people will come together and train. I like it. It's really awesome.
Yeah. So the other end of this is, what if you're much smaller than average, and like this is both both sexes, right?
Yeah.
Both men and women will have issues with this. So
Hey, jiu-jitsu is a superpower. Be glad you're small. Come in and embrace it, and understand jiu-jitsu is for the small person. That's the watching jiu-jitsu for 9, 10 years now. Nothing is better than watching some little like 115-pound
yeah,
person just crawl all over somebody. And when the person gets done, they kind of just look around the room.
they're shell
Like, what
shocked.
is this? Specific time in Arizona, there's probably 105-pound. I don't know. She's probably 50. I would say 50. So masters, right? She's in the listen. She wears a gi, and I watch her. This big old, probably I don't know, 190-pound, 200-pound guy. And she just crawl over. So there's definitely inspiration out there. If you feel that you're too small, I promise.
Yeah, the interesting thing about jujitsu is size matters, strength matters, but you can nullify it with enough effort and trickery. Like
It's special sometimes, magic sometimes.
yeah, like yeah. So being like jujitsu's origin was a really small guy dealing with a really big judo guy, or that's part of the the, the mythos, the jujitsu myth. Like I'm sure that happened, right? But like it is designed to help to nullify the size. It doesn't mean that size doesn't matter. It'll help if you're bigger, for sure. Everything is going to be, you know, different if you're significantly smaller than the majority of your training partners. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
But different, usually the smaller has different means right. Like they have to do things more right. Like
Yeah.
they don't even. It's like some of your at the beginning of white belt level, some of those things may go away because you have to do things right, or you're like, oh wait a minute, this doesn't work at all. That's because you're not using the leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, the most technical people are
Yeah.
usually smaller,
Yep.
for sure.
For sure.
And if you're looking at kind of the way that you can keep yourself safe, if you're concerned about safety, which is a legitimate concern, when that there's a reason weight classes exist. Part of the way that you can do that is by brushing up on your picking skills. Like you pick the right training partners. Like there are bigger guys that are much safer roles than some of the people that are only a little bit bigger than you.
For sure. Yep. But that's what we have. Like, you can look around a room and see people in the room that and maybe not. Maybe if you don't ever watch people, but I watch people, and I've been to all types of gyms, and most of the time, when people are warming up, you can tell who's good partners and who's not good partners.
Yeah, just based on the way they move.
Just based on the way
Yeah.
they move, the way they're warming up, and by the people that are around. Like most of the time, go to if you're new to a class and find the group that there's kind of people sitting together. Go kind of scoot to that group and just be like, hey, I'm new. Like don't go to don't hang out in the back and get stuck with the last person that was already at class.
Yeah.
Don't
that's
don't let
being
that.
a bad picker.
Yeah. Go right to the group that has the most people kind of sitting in it, and just kind of, if you get close to a group in a jiu-jitsu class, somebody's like, hey man, are you new? I promise, instantly. Don't just hang out.
Yeah, I mean,
That'll kind of help that'll kind of ease those nerves there.
for sure, and like the people who are sitting together in the middle, right before class, those are the more nice social people most of the time.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you see people who have friendly energy. You'll see them. They're smiling. They're laughing. Those are also usually the safer people because they have if they care about socializing and having relationships with people and maintaining friendships, then kind of they're going to be biased towards more caring of their training partners.
sure.
Like it's not 1-to-1, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I think if you're worried about maybe getting hurt, that's the first place you start. Is you just find those people that are smiling, that are laughing. It's easy to find in a jiu-jitsu class. They may smell a little funny, but they'll be smiling.
That's also not 1-to-1.
Definitely not 1-to-1, but no, that's it. And I do that even as a professional fighter, brown belt, trying will be a black belt. Like every class I go to, we were just at 10th Planet Belgrade. Super awesome atmosphere. The coach there, never got his name. I couldn't pronounce the way he said his name, but he taught his classes in English, which was cool. But
Was it because you guys were there?
No, nope. We slid in on some classes, like while he was in the middle of teaching classes. He just said that's like all of a certain age and up, all try to speak. If he has to go in detail, sometimes he has to go back, but they all try to speak English. The 10th Planet there kind of went underground, but you could just see the class. You could see around the class. One guy, I looked at Gabriel, and I was like, hey, man, I'm pretty sure that's the one in the class to kind of watch out. And then maybe 2 days later, we rolled with them, and Gabe was like, hey, that's the only guy in the whole room. I was like, yeah. He was the only one that really wasn't smiling. And and he was like, that was that simple? I was like, yes, it was that simple. Like, he just wasn't smiling. I was like, he's the only one that didn't smile. He was kind of like in a serious mindset. And then when he shook your hand, he didn't smile. Like, he just kind of touched it and went. So you could really tell. Like, I could pick it up instantly. Yeah. So that'll help with that.
Yeah, can you tell people a little bit about why you were in Belgrade? That's Serbia, right?
Yeah, Serbia, awesome.
Yeah, just give them some context.
I had the coolest opportunity. We've got a couple amateurs on our team that had the opportunity to go to Team USA tryouts in Vegas back in July. We took a handful out there. 3 of them had open.
This is for MMA, right?
Yeah, for Team USA MMA. We go. There's an International MMA Federation, IMAF, who holds amateur or junior and amateur and youth world MMA tournaments. We're talking about 5 cages in a venue. All these other countries have big opening ceremonies, big concerts, and the finals has fireworks coming out when you're walking out, like kind of the Olympics of MMA. They have youth, and I've had the opportunity to go a couple years with youth, which allowed me to go with the adults, and that's how we took some guys. And I got to coach Kerry Miller, one of the coolest things I've been a part of. That's a really cool Belgrade, Serbia, Bulgaria, Abu Dhabi. They hold it in beautiful places. Next year, don't know where they'll be. Don't know where they'll be for kids, but that's it's for amateur MMA worlds.
Yeah. So you took that group and then you visited a 10th Planet over there. So that's what happened.
Yeah. Every time we travel, really anywhere. Youth Nationals last year, we were in California, 10th Planet Oceanside, super popular. We were 4 minutes from there. So we train there. We're usually there for 5 to 7 days when we go, getting ready for whatever the big competition is. So my coaches train. All of my kids train daily, so they want to get on the mats. And we just kind of find the places that open their doors. 10th Planets have been across the world now. One of the most opening arm type gyms, and just a cool environment, not too much of a grindy, just a cool environment. So that's why we end up in 10th Planets. I always Google 10th Planet, and I find if there's one within an Uber drive, we go to the 10th Planet, and they're usually like open arms.
Very awesome.
Yeah,
cool stuff.
So that's why we end up at 10th Planets.
Cool, awesome. All right, so if you're too small, picking your training partners, we kind of talked about that. Developing those soft skills is really important for everybody, but it might be even more important if you're on the smaller end, like especially if you're like below 130 and you're in a room full of 175 plus, and that's in terms of percentage, that's pretty big.
A lot of times, isn't that kind of rare though to have because I know me now. Listen, don't be shaded by the gym you're in now, because we have a lot of. But this is the first time any gym I go to, usually across the world, 155 and down is the majority of the gym. Like in 10th Planet, there was only 3 guys out of probably 40 that I saw. 3 guys were bigger guys. Same thing out in Oceanside. There was only there was a 60-person class there.
60. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And they were like eight big guys. But that's not a lot compared to the class. Most of the people I roll with there were smaller. So I think the big guys usually group together. Now, you might have a gym where there's a lot of big, but most of the time I think it's going to be smaller anyway. You're going to have smaller training partners. I know that our gym is different.
Yeah, well, Chase travels all the time. He has a bigger sample size. The two major gyms that I've trained at, plus the ones that I've visited, had a lot of like burly firefighters and cops. So like I'm biased towards thinking everyone's big.
Even traditional like Gracie Jiu-Jitsus.
I haven't been to a small traditional school.
Okay.
I haven't I've been to one.
I haven't been to many of those because those are usually a little more like, no, you cannot come in. I'm like, all right. Like,
okay, yeah.
It's just
they don't want to be gym stormed
no,
or whatever.
they don't. And then if they do, you have to buy our gi. And I'm like, for one class, I brought a group of kids up.
Yeah.
For what I just wanted to train.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe this won't be much of an issue, and you'll be able to find a bunch of people
Hopefully.
your size. But there are adjustments you can make if you end up in a situation filled with a bunch of burly firefighters like I did.
Oh, I've definitely heard that excuse though. So that's what the video's about. I've definitely heard that excuse, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of little people.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A lot of little people. Yeah, but yeah, there's stuff you could do about it. Like the other one that we want to talk about, the next one, probably I'm too old. It's kind of in the same vein of making excuses, but I honestly
I feel my coach car every time. Because the video's about excuses, so I feel my coach car kicking in. Like I want to coach everybody. I'm like, nope, we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to tell you what I tell, but that's another excuse. I'll show you. We've got somebody to look up on Instagram. If we talk about it too.
The Jiu-Jitsu grandma?
The Jiu-Jitsu grandma. There's no way. I hope we can give her a tag in the video and she sees it because I follow her. Like I can't not. I've shown my grandma. Now my grandma is 90.
So when is she starting jiu-jitsu?
I've tried hard. She just hey,
walk the walk, grandma.
Hey, watch it. Hold on. She rides her air down.
Okay.
I got her an air down. On the
okay, so cardio won't be a problem for
she
Jason's
rides her
grandma.
air down. she does. She says, "Well, I just do it 3 or 4 times a day," and I'm like 3 or 4 times a day.
She's beating me.
She gets on her for like 15 minutes, 3 or 4 times a day, and just rides an air down. It's funny. But
that's top
she
one.
She said she won't do jiu-jitsu.
Top 1% of grandmas.
I tried hard. Yeah. So age isn't. Come on.
Yeah.
Too old.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before.
If you're intelligent about the way that you're approaching training, age really isn't an issue.
Where do you hear that So I think the too old excuse comes from. I hear it mostly like there's not really an age group that says too old. I think it's just like one of those things. No, you're like people my age say they're too old. 30, 32 years old. I'm like, too old. But like 40, what, 40? Maybe somebody say too old. 40 would be where you'd be like, yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know. People find ways to complain and make excuses.
Because are you going to
all
make
over
it
the
to
place.
50? Like if you're 40, are you going to make it to 50? Probably, right?
Yeah.
What could you be in 10 years of jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
I mean, you're 40, you should start understanding investments at this time. Like,
Yeah.
if you just got into jiu-jitsu at 40 years old, and that's probably an acceptable, I might be getting too old.
Yeah.
No, if you got into jiu-jitsu at 40 years old, you're probably, if you do things right, probably a brown belt.
Yeah.
At least, right? In any way, shape, or form. If you
Right.
get in the right place and pay the right money, you could be a black belt.
Yeah. Well, I think that 10 years, like
10
it just,
years, right? It's right on
yeah,
the line, right?
yeah,
Like you're
that's-
going to be a brown belt at least.
Yeah.
Working towards a black belt. So, I mean, shoot, are you going to be done doing stuff at 50? No. And how much cooler would it be? So, too old. I love those type of excuses. Man. Maybe if you're jiu-jitsu grandma's age, but
she still did it.
and does it and competes.
She still did it.
She competes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she doesn't just go to class. She competes. And she
Yeah.
posts videos all the time.
Yeah. I mean, there are caveats. Like if you're in your 40s, you're not very likely to be a world champion. But if you're realistic with yourself, do you really want to put in the work to do something like that?
Hey.
For most people, the answer is no.
Hey, I'm the best 78-year-old there is. If they can say that.
I'm the best.
So,
I'm the
challenge
best
me.
78.
Yeah, challenge. There's another 78-year-old. Yeah. No, the jiu-jitsu grandma just shatters that. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, when I was thinking about us talking today, I was like, I'm going to pull it up my phone. I'm going to make the screen look at jiu-jitsu grandma. Like, look.
Maybe I'll put a link in.
Please put a link and go if you're listening. If you took the time to listen to us talk about the excuses people make, please go look up jiu-jitsu grandma.
Yeah, I mean, so like,
And I guess if it's you don't get too many too youngs, so
no, too young. Like,
but I do
when-
get too young because I can still wrestle, and I'm like because we're around our wrestling community. Like you'll get that, like, oh no, that's for after wrestling.
that's a different thing. though.
Yeah,
That's a different thing.
still an excuse I'll get though.
Yeah, that's kind of like outside of the scope of this. That's like for
for sure.
little kids, and that's just a
Yep.
whole. We could do an episode on kids, maybe over on a different.
I've been told by an 18-year-old kid who's wanting to go to college wrestle that he's not going to do it until after college wrestling. So I mean that's close. I mean you're talking 18.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of view teenagers as being kind of like in between our two groups.
I keep them under 21 as,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just
Yeah. So like, there's a song like "I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as
Oh, yeah.
good once as I ever was."
and I promise that's true.
So I kind of like thought about that, and I was like, if you translate it from country to jiu-jitsu, then all that means is that you just peak less often. So don't overtrain all year.
Yeah.
So be a little smarter about programming how you approach like competing if you're going to compete, or how you approach training, because the tough thing about jiu-jitsu is that there's no season, so you don't stop and give yourself time to recover generally, because it's something that you can do every week. And if you're doing it every week, multiple times a week, or multiple times a day even, then you need to be giving yourself some time to rest. And you either need to be peaking and then taking a little break and then, building back up to a peak, or, the kind of stuff that's covered in other sports. But
Yeah, you could find information on that periodization, just training
Yeah.
periodization. If you feel like you're getting a little too old, you probably understand your body a little more too. So that's a big thing. A lot of that periodization is just really about feeling your body and Hey, are you feeling a little run down today? Well, let's go light today.
Yeah.
And that'll help nullify your. I feel you. I can tell a difference, in years, but so I understand that. But there's definitely things that I do. Man, I'm feeling a little rough today. I'm not going to go hard today. I'm
Yeah.
going to go light. I'm going to look at my partner. I'm going to say, hey, my old shoulder's hurting today.
Yeah. Picking partners.
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So controlling your intensity matters a lot more as you age and as you accumulate small injuries, which is just kind of a part of aging in general, let alone in a sport that essentially occurs year round. So if you keep things at a lower ish intensity, you'll be able to go year round. But if you're like most people, you're gonna go too hard, too much. So if you keep an eye on that, it'll really help. Like if you've started or you're just starting the first 6 months or whatever, you're gonna be going too hard, and I think that's why instructors tell you, oh, just 2 times a week, to start, and that's to kind of build in that recovery time when you're on the older end, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because you're not uh, intelligent enough on the mats for like doing the grappling part. You don't have enough grappling IQ to know how much you're taxing yourself. So I think that's where that train 2 times a week came from initially, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like jujitsu is kind of expanded the age range of people who started over time. So you get a lot more people starting in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and that's just like over time it's become more. It's aged a little bit. Like the demographic spread is pretty huge.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, out of 10 new students, you can't guess the age range. They could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50% people who would say, "Oh, I'm too old." Well, they did it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah, no, I've got a couple that are on the mats every day with us. They go hard.
Okay, so being too old isn't really an excuse. You can start at virtually any age as long as your doctor isn't telling you not to.
We talked. We when we started kind of chatting about this, we talked about one of the things that come with people saying too old is kind of that skill ceiling.
Oh yeah.
Make sure, and just my thoughts on kind of that because I've had guys say, "Well, man, I wish I'd have started earlier, man. I'm just not gonna be able to be good." No, like it's jiu-jitsu's a feel thing, and there's not like if you're worried about being like on the further scale, like if you're trying to be the best in the world, like yeah, maybe you're not going to be as good as Gordon Ryan because he started before you. But like, if that's something you're really worried about, like mat time is everything, and I'm not sure if there is a ceiling. I know that I put in time in 1 year of commitment with training and coaching and being on the mat. Where there's days where it's 10 hours a day for 6 months at a time. So I'm not saying that you can't, cut curves even in that, if that's your big goal there, so the skill ceiling, but most people that are 10 years, are you going to age out of this in 10 years? Probably not. So 10 years, man, if I can work and get a black belt in 10 years, like it's hard to say there's a skill ceiling. Like a black belt's a pretty skilled, that might be a skill ceiling, but like
the ceiling's pretty high.
It's
most
crazy.
people aren't going to.
Nah.
Most people like
in the world
They stop for all kinds of reasons. It's not just about jiu-jitsu. Like 10 years is a long time, and circumstances change, and maybe sometimes you're not able to train for a year or two because of a new job or moving, or you have a kid, so like those are all things you can work around if you want to, but sometimes it's more prudent to put time into a business or whatever. But like that's the ceiling is so high that most people don't reach it, and the kind of people that make it to world class, if you want to be world class at anything, you do have to start it kind of a little bit earlier, like not a ton earlier.
Yeah.
You can become a world class jiu-jitsu athlete if you start in your 20s. It will be harder for you.
Yeah,
But I
it can
know
be done.
I know that there are people who have done it. And like you have to be honest with yourself about whether or not that's really something that truly matters to you. I think that if you get to black belt, even like, hobbyist level, older people black belt, you're still wiping the floor
Yeah,
with
you're a
almost
badass.
everybody.
You're a badass.
Like that's a pretty good if you get there, and even if you like let your skill atrophy, you're still a badass.
I don't know. I've grabbed a hold of really good black belts and really bad black belts, but I don't know if I've grabbed a hold of one black belt. All the traveling I've ever done, that like when I grabbed him, I was like, yeah, you're a black belt.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't nowhere near the
Yeah.
level of the other black belt I've grabbed, I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, you're still a black belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like 115 pound. No, there's a 115 pound black belt in Arizona, a little bitty lady, and I don't know how old she is because she's probably really old, but she's not.
Yeah, you don't ask. So.
Yeah, she's not. Well, yeah. But anyway, she's one of those. Like, oh, I know you're a black belt, so even there, you're talking about a little bitty, and just a hammer.
Yeah, in general, I wouldn't worry about the skill ceiling thing because you could get really good. You can get, maybe not world class competitor, but you could I don't know, you could be in the top 1% easily.
Yeah.
Like as far as like jujitsu ability, no problem. No problem. You make it to black belt. You like do some focus work. Top 1% is pretty good.
We had a little scrappy lady in our gym.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I think I've seen her probably tap everybody up to the top 3 guys in her gym that she hasn't tapped, but she's
gotten me.
Yeah, listen, I've watched her get, and I'm talking about 112 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
55.
No, you can't say that on
I think 55.
You can't say.
Hey, listen, she's a tough old lady, and she knows it. I tell her, holy cow.
You could say 50s. You can't reveal the actual.
Holy cow. Some ish.
Yeah, ish.
But
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, older than us, and far smaller.
Yeah, and not even a black belt yet.
Yeah.
So it's like not even.
Yeah, she's a purple belt. So.
Yeah, a couple years away from it. So that's just how powerful it could be. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't worry about the skill ceiling thing. It's not that relevant. Like most people aren't able to be world class because that's world class, right? But you can you could get world class, but you're not going to necessarily be a champion unless you start a little early. But you could get so much done.
Yeah, but there are older people divisions, right?
That's true, but
right there,
yeah.
I think you can find.
Okay, until you get to black belt, you will be able to compete with everyone up to brown belt.
So
but when you hit black belt and you start seeing people with 4 or 5, whatever it is, that if they've been a black belt for 20
rings around,
if they've been a black belt for 20 years, I don't know if you'll ever get to tapping these people. But up until black belt, in those age divisions, you've got a shot.
Yeah.
You could definitely take first in one of those.
For sure.
100%.
For sure.
But it changes a little bit at black belt. It changes.
Yeah, the water gets really deep.
Oh God. Yep. Okay, so the other thing is people who do not want to compete. Don't compete. It's
Don't
that
compete.
simple.
Yeah.
Like everybody talks about how important competition is. It's not as important as you might think.
There are some gyms that are competition focused, but like really, I guess on this we're going to use our gym like as far as examples a lot, right? But I know that our gym is a different environment. But like, there's probably not a more competition oriented gym than our gym, right? Like, that's all of our main focus and what we do is fighting. We have like just last weekend we had 12 guys fight. In the past month we've had like 18 guys compete and fight that you train with, that you've been around?
Yeah. We're at an MMA gym for context, so that you will get a lot of people who want to compete because there's nothing more real than fighting.
But
as
we've
far as
got
competing.
a good group of people that just don't really care to compete,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah,
I'll do it
you know,
occasionally, but it's
Michael
not that.
Johnson. That's
Yeah.
somebody I put. Matt Norman.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, just pull names, but just.
Yeah.
But we got a handful of guys that they just you kind of and I do it, but I got to kind of push them to get them to compete. So even at a gym that's probably we've got a lot of guys that kind of just do it to do it. I
You
don't
could help your friends prepare for competition without ever having
for sure.
done a competition yourself.
And you probably want to compete, maybe just not in competitions, right? So like that's gonna be part of your jiu-jitsu journey is being able to grab your buddies and oh man, I'm competing for this little position. Like you're gonna find that in the room anyway. But even if you want to avoid the whole conflict of competition, I think in a jiu-jitsu culture is so malleable, so flexible, so like if you look, the instructor, hey, this is something I really don't. You don't have to do live, and that's the competition side of class. Like instructors will usually bend and work with you to help you work through that first little bit of worry that you got. So
Yeah, I think that hard rolls with your friends, it's enough to give you context on how to do jujitsu under pressure, and
yeah,
like that's really what the tournaments are about. Like you can have a hard roll with your friends, but it's not quite as intense as a competition roll. But I think that's I don't think you need it. Not for getting personal fulfillment out of jujitsu. That's why I compete very rarely.
yeah,
But you don't have to do it. And if you pick the right school, you're never going to get pressured into doing it. Because you go to a family oriented gym, a self defense oriented gym, or just a gym that has a good culture, no one's going to expect you to compete. So you don't have to worry about it.
yeah. No, you said fulfillment. Get the fulfillment from the competing. I've competed a ton, and I'm not sure if after competing I've had the same fulfillment as after just an open mat day where everybody came in and I got good rolls with all of my friends.
Yeah.
I think I get, we're talking about fulfillment, I think I get more fulfillment from that than I do when I go and win.
Win real matches.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
That it's, yeah, even as I guess maybe it's because it's my job, maybe. I don't know. I've never thought about it. But I get more fulfillment out of the training aspect than I do of the competition. The competition's kind of that. And maybe that's an issue. Maybe that's something I got to dig into.
Yeah, maybe.
But
yeah, well, when I finish a competition match, for me, I just feel a sense of relief that it's over, and that is not the same as the feeling of having like a really good open mat with your friends. Like,
no, like just sitting there like.
but some people are animals, and they really want to they have that hard edge. I just don't happen to be one of those people.
I feel like I'm not either. And I'm a fighter. I got to fix that. It's
But yeah, for most of the people listening,
I love jiu-jitsu.
yeah, for most of the people listening, it's really not a big deal if you don't want to compete.
No,
You don't
not at
even
all.
you don't even have to roll hard. You just you get what you set it up so that you get what you want out of it. If that means you don't want to roll, then so be it. You should roll at least light with trusted people, and you can roll hard with your trusted
Yeah.
people. And those are the relative safety and the relative and the risk to reward of rolling with your training partners is just it's really good. So you don't have to compete in order to get a lot out of it.
Don't think so.
Yeah. So kind of related here. The next point is people claiming that jiu-jitsu is dangerous. Opening thoughts?
Yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. because we talked about picking your partners and um, opening thoughts would be the injury stuff we do for our kids, youth stuff, and it's
The mobility stuff.
no the stats on actual what's more dangerous. Football, but those sports are more dangerous per injury in a youth.
Yeah.
In youth, obviously we don't have a lot of data on just normal, but in youth. So in youth, the martial arts are far less injury prone